Well, this is a news segment of Two Non-Critics that I'm tentatively calling Two Non-TV Critics. I got it in my head a few months ago that maybe we should talk about some TV shows since we're both also very fond of television as well as movies. So two lifelong friends and TV buffs with similar yet different tastes when it comes to TV. I get together to talk about some TV for our inaugural. I don't know how to say that word without sounding drunk. Episode. We talk about Guillermo del Toro's The Strain. I am non-critic Dustin, and joining us from Hawaii is non-critic Blade. Hello, Blade.
How you doing? I just hunt vampires for a living.
That's what he does. But when he's not hunting them, he's watching TV shows about them from his old pal Guillermo del Toro, who directed Blade 2.
Guillermo del Toro.
By the way, this episode is kind of like a first-parter and probably like a two-part Guillermo episode because we plan on talking about the films of Guillermo del Toro because I'm a big fan of Mr. Del Toro, and I would like to talk about his work.
Señor del Toro. If I just want to say quickly though, if anybody is wondering, if you watch us, if anybody is wondering why I'm wearing shades right now, it's because I just recently had laser surgery on my eyes. So look it up. It's called PRK. I have PRK instead of LASIK. Look it up on. Of course, they got videos on YouTube. So if you want to see what I volunteered to do to myself, look it up. But yeah, like
you needed to do it.
Well, I mean, it's not that I needed to. I could have just stuck with my glasses, but I decided not to want to wear glasses. So I mean, yeah. But I mean, yeah, that's the reason why I have shades. If anybody's like, why the hell does you have shades on today? Yeah, because my eyes are kind of sensitive right now, and I kind of hurt. Yeah, I'm kind of a mixture between Blade and Morpheus. So yeah.
I was gonna say Ray Charles or Stevie Wonder, but if you want to go with Morpheus, that's fine.
That's how Stevie does it. Always has a smile on his face. But yeah. That's just a little quick side note that I had laser surgery, so that's why I have some shades on. Because it's a mess down here. It's all bloodshot and red. So yeah. Okay. Cool.
Right.
But that shows how dedicated I am to this show. Even with lasers in my eye, I'll still do the show.
If you did it from the table while you're getting lasers shot into your eye, that would be dedication.
Little side note, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, a burning eye smells like burning hair. Just a little side note. Think about it.
Think about it. It's important. You got to know these things. So anyway, we're here to talk about the first episode. I don't know if we'll continue with every episode, but talking about the new FX series, The Strain, written and directed by Guillermo del Toro, based on his trilogy of modern-day vampire novels that he co-wrote with Chuck Hogan, known as The Strain. And yeah, I became aware of this when the first book came out. I started to read it. I got about as far as they did in the first episode before I gave up on it. It's not that the book was bad. It was very, very interesting, but it was too clinical. The terminology was, the medical terminology was just too much. I felt like it was strangling the story, and I really couldn't get into it. The medical terms were just really throwing me off. And the sort of technicality in the writing and how specific it was in regards to certain things just lost me. So I gave up, but I was interested. I remember hearing that the show was going to happen, and I was interested in at least seeing it. And I have to say that seeing it is better than reading it. I enjoyed this very, very much. How about you?
Well, first off, I never heard of The Strain, never heard of the book or whatnot until non-critic Dustin introduced me to it. He was telling me that pretty soon there's going to be a TV series based on Guillermo del Toro's book of The Strain or whatnot. So when he told me it's something dealing with like the modern day vampire or whatnot, but it takes a really serious look on like how vampires are. I was like, of course, any type of like mystical creature, anything dealing with horror, I'm interested, and I would take in consideration. So I decided to watch it, after he recommended it to me, and it was very, very interesting. It kind of reminds me, in a sense, of Chronos, because it has nothing to do with like similarities of Chronos, but just the difference. Like Chronos was a different way that you would see how a person becomes a vampire. This
Chronos, of
is
course,
an,
being Guillermo del Toro's first movie, which we
yes,
watched for the Guillermo del Toro show. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah. This is another example of how it takes away the typical well-known story of how you become a vampire. Like you get bit on the neck and you turn and blah blah blah. Like it goes into a whole deeper thing of the origin of a vampire and what it looks like it's more of an infection than just a hey, he got transformed into some beautiful creature that you know unfortunately feeds on human beings, but it's
Mm-hmm.
has all power. It seems more like a virus, an infection. So it took a different twist on what the typical vampire is. You know, for to me, as I was watching the show and like within in the first episode, you do see some of the people that have turned into this vampire, but for me, I can't even call them a vampire. I mean, it seems more kind of like a hybrid of a zombie and a vampire, if that makes any sense.
Well, that's pretty much what I mean. Zombies and vampires are essentially the same thing. It's just that zombies and vampires have been portrayed differently in mass media. So vampires are traditionally considered the sexier of the two. Not necessarily saying, sexy Dracula or Angel from Buffy or Twilight or anything like that. It's just that vampirism is supposed to be has been viewed as this more mystical, romantic thing, while the zombies are just this down and dirty, gory thing. And I think that's what's really interesting whenever Guillermo del Toro decides to do a vampire story, which is quite often. He he really blends the two very, very well. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
um, because zombies are about like returning from the dead, as are vampires. They're both undead, but he sort of takes the more practical approach, I guess. That's kind of a weird way of saying it, but when you think about it, they're both zombies and vampires are the same thing. They're just portrayed differently, which is what brought me into what I wanted to say that I really enjoyed about this show, and whenever anything Del Toro is he's able to. You can tell he loves mythology and he loves mythical things, and but not only does he love that, but I think he loves to make it seem tangible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he said he spent like all his youth thinking about vampires and what it would mean to be an actual vampire. And would your lungs dry out because you don't need them anymore? What happens to your lungs? And it seems like he spent a long time thinking about how vampires could practically survive or could actually exist without being just magical in the way they're usually portrayed. So that was pretty interesting. And I think the show proves beyond the shadow of a doubt that Guillermo del Toro is a big David Cronenberg fan because it's very, very body conscious. David
Mm-hmm.
Cronenberg, before he started making um, well-respected, critically acclaimed dramas like A History of Violence and Eastern Promises and A Dangerous Method, he was known for horror and sci-fi movies based around the body. about decay of
Yeah.
the body and all that. So David Cronenberg has always really messed with my head because that's horror movies. They don't scare me. Like ghost movies don't scare me anymore. Serial killer movies don't scare me anymore. But if you're talking about something to do with the body, I still get kind of oozy and icky about that. And there are so many moments in this movie, I mean, this show, which looks like a movie anyway,
Mhm.
that really sort of got under my skin and really kind of, yeah, felt very Cronenberg-esque to me. But I did want to bring up, because I did kind of cut you off earlier, aside from the sort of, the new take on the vampire, what did you think of the story itself or the characters itself? Because I think that was kind of a weak point, but that's usually a weak point in Guillermo's work, unfortunately.
Um, okay, I agree with you that as far as the characters are concerned, it was a weak point, but I still am giving it a chance because it was just the first episode, so I mean I'm pretty sure that they'll reveal more about the character. It'll be you'll get a better sense of each character as the series goes on and their background and why they do what they do. Um, like I said, because this is not a like we're saying, this is not a movie. This is a TV show, so they're only going to give you a little taste for the first episode, the pilot. So I'm expecting more from each character, but of course, it may not be guaranteed. But I think one of the characters that kind of stands out, I guess, the most to me is either the old man that owns the shop because there's an old man that owns a shop that he already knows about the strain. He knows about the vampires. Without spoiling anything, I'll just say that he already knows about the vampires. He's a very interesting character.
Yeah, he's
And,
definitely the most interesting
and I guess I can say the second interesting is I guess I'm assuming it's the main character who's a scientist who's having his own issues at home with his family, like he's being separated from his wife and his children. He's going through
custody
counseling with
battle.
custody battle with his ex-wife because she's with another man now. That of course he brought out that he works at Sears and he's pissed. Like, he's
Because he
like,
works for the
there's
CDC, so he's makes good money, and this guy works for Sears.
this guy worked for Sears and he's watching my son. And like, yeah, um, he seems like he's going to become an interesting character. Like they only gave his background about the family problems that he has, and of course, what he does, and he sees this as an outbreak, um, but of course, he doesn't know the depths of how bad this situation is. Of course, but I'm pretty
Mm-hmm.
sure that he'll discover it throughout time. The person that actually seems like they're getting more of a hint, more knowledge to it is actually his. I believe it's his assistant, this female, because she's actually listening.
So
I,
I'm
I
just
don't
laughing. I'm laughing just because I don't mean to derail this, but I'm laughing because I've just been talking with a lot of people about how interesting I think it is that people just refer to women as female now. Just like all the time on like talk shows and whatnot, they refer to women as females. I'm like, well, a lot of things are female. Cats are female, dogs are female, horses are female, parasites are female. Do you mean what do you mean? A woman, perhaps? No, I just think it's funny when people say, "Oh, this female."
the reason why the reason why I'm saying this woman or this female is because I forgot her name. I forgot the doctor's name too.
Well,
That's
I'm not. It's not that you forgot. I don't care that you forgot her name because I don't remember her name either. I just mean referring to her as a female instead of a
yeah.
woman or a lady
Well, his
or a broad. I don't know.
his assistant who is a woman. I think they had a relationship. I believe. I think they did.
Mhm.
Um, she is actually taking in what the old. They meet up. they meet up with the old man. Well, he meets them, and he's trying to tell them to, destroy the coffin that they found and this and that, and they're not believing him. But the woman is actually taking heed to what he's saying. She's the only one. So I feel that she's going to. She's probably going to be an important part of an important. She's going to have an important role in this series. I mean, or maybe not.
No,
Who knows?
probably. I would guess so. I mean, when I say that the characters are a weak point, it's a common thing, and we'll talk about it on our Guillermo show. But it's a common problem I have with Guillermo's movies, as much as I enjoy them, is that the people never really feel like people to me. They just feel like characters who are there to fulfill story roles that the story needs. Well, I should save it for the actual show, but when we talk about Pacific Rim, I'm going to bring that up a lot, about how the characters are very much just there. They were just, I didn't invest in them at all. And but I felt the same way about this. It's they're just, I understand them, and they're not necessarily bad characters, but they're not necessarily very interesting. And there's too many of them. That was a big problem I had with the book. Way too many focal characters. It would, I'd be with that the guy from the CDC for a couple of pages, and then it would go to some passenger on the plane for a couple of pages. So many point of view characters that it just, I couldn't involve myself in any of them. The show did that a little bit, a little more. They kept it more streamlined. They weren't so all over the place with the character point of views. There's a few focal characters that you follow along here, but it's just everyone feels like a stock character. He's like the main character you're talking about. He's the dad coping with things, with the custody battle, and he's too busy at work, and that's pretty much all he is. Then there's the Spanish thief character, who is pretty much, that's what he is. I mean, they added in that he's trying to take care of his mom and everything, but he still just seemed kind of shallow. But you're right, it is the first episode. They'll peel away the layers and whatnot. But I'm not sure. We should really start wrapping this up. But one last thing I wanted to ask: did you think any of it was scary?
Um,
Because it is a horror series, it is important to discuss if there's any.
I think the build up was kind of creepy. It wasn't much of a build up. It was pretty much it was quick and to the point, but there was some type of build up that there is something wrong with the situation. Like the very beginning of the series, the show, they're in a plane. They're about to land in New York City, and then there's this guy, one of the flight attendants. He is in the back and he's in panic. He's in shock because he said there's something underneath, like in the cargo part. There's something that's like growling and roaring and crawling, and it's big. The other flight attendant, she's not believing him, and until all of a sudden the door to the cargo hold starts like pushing through. You hear like banging and everything. The screws are starting to pop out, so it's building up some suspense. It's building up. It's building up something that's like, oh man, like what's about to happen? What is in there? What the hell is trying to break through? And then when it pops up, it looks like this big demonic creature, and then it just cuts to a different screen. So one thing I wanted to touch on, that before we wrap this up, one thing I want to touch on was you actually see it. When I say you see it, you don't see what it actually looks like. It has like a cloak over itself or whatnot. It's covering itself up, but you see how dangerous it is, how big it is, and it actually kills one of the. I don't know if he was a scientist or a doctor or whatnot, but it kills a person.
Center for Disease Control.
Yeah, it kills him, and the the
It
way
kills
it,
the shit out of that guy.
yeah, like the way it killed him, I was just like, excuse my language, but like, what the fuck? Like, really? Like, it shows. I mean, that's another thing. It shows how far TV has gone, from back then to now, because they're
That
getting
was
away with a
gory.
lot. They're getting away with a lot more things to show.
Mhm.
Because the way it killed him, it wasn't a typical suck your blood and you die. It was horrific. I'm not going to spoil it, but it was horrific. It was
Mhm.
grotesque. It was gory.
So you loved it.
Like there's a point. For me, there was a point in my mind where I'm like, damn, he is dead. Like, leave him alone. like,
Hmm.
like, stop. But you see what the creature, what the being is, and it brings a horrific feel to it. Of course, I have to see more of the show to give a better explanation on what the horror is. But from what I just saw, I'd be scared of that shit.
It's funny
I,
that what
I'm good. I'm good.
was it? That moment didn't scare me. I thought it was a bit much, but you do have to sort of. That felt like one of those kills. You see like a slasher movie. The first kill is always the worst because
Yeah.
you have to let the audience know that this guy means business.
Yeah.
So I was okay with it because it's like, I mean, that's a little much, but they have to show how hardcore this thing is, so I get it. But the parts that freaked me out the most, and like I said, I did get pretty not scared so much, but I was getting sort of antsy and creeped out by the body stuff. They sort of show that the vampire or the vampiric gene or whatever it is sort of originates in this worm-like creature that really freaked me out because
Yeah.
parasites and stuff, they just that they but there is a scene involving those things that I thought was pretty intense and hard to watch. But in a good way, not in a bad way. Like this is just gross. In a way that like this, I want to watch because I want to know what's happening, but I'm so by it. And, that was a good kind of scary that I enjoyed. It wasn't
Yeah.
just gross for the sake of being gross. I was happy about that. But anyway, this went on much longer than I expected, but that's okay. I'm thinking that for future episodes, we might talk about a couple of different shows per episode.
Yeah.
So, so throughout the week, and we'll probably be doing Gotham, the new Gotham series and whatnot. Maybe some other shows I don't know. But
Nice.
next week, hopefully, I think maybe we want to do the Guillermo show next week.
Okay.
All right, there we go. We'll do the Guillermo show next week since we're already on the topic. And so until then, go watch The Strain if you haven't seen it yet. New episode tomorrow. And we don't have a sign off of any kind. So, bye.